Hello YouTube, it's the K Woody Kid. So this is my second funny video for Jay's contest. And this one you need a little bit more background information for. So when I was going to school we had a kind of a community service project that we had to do. We had to go cut brush on a prairie. So it was the middle of winter, and it just happened to be that the day we were supposed to go cut brush was the coldest day of the year, and actually the coldest day in a long time. It was -20 in the morning when we left to go, and that's really out of the ordinary for Pennsylvania. So when I was getting ready to go that day, I knew it was cold outside, and I was trying to figure out what to wear. And you know how you get a pair of boots and they leak, your feet get wet, and then since it's cold out they freeze, your feet freeze off. Yeah, I didn't want that to happen, so I had a pair of waders that were cut off into boots, and they had the felt bottoms on them, like to keep you from slipping in the stream when you're wading across the stream. But I was using them before and I kept them in my car, and the felt got wet and it froze overnight. And I didn't think much of it. But what happened was the felt froze into a solid block of ice. So I was pretty much wearing popsicles on my feet. And I figured, well, they'd warm up by the time we got to the prairie, because it was like an hour drive or something. And at least if I wore these boots, they're rubber boots, so they wouldn't leak, and I wouldn't have to worry about, my feet getting wet and then freezing, because that would be bad. So we get in the car, I have the boots on, and we're driving along, and I'm thinking, man, my feet are really cold. And I mean, I'm just trying to ignore it, because I mean, I'm gonna have to wear them all day, and I gotta suck it up. And by the time we get there, my feet were frozen. I could barely feel them. And I'm thinking, man, this isn't going to be good if I'm going to have to be outside all day. So we go in, and the leader, the cleanup, the prairie cleanup is like, yeah, it's really cold out today, so if you're feeling cold, or, the cold's bothering you, just come in and warm up. And all the guys are standing around in the corner and being like, a bunch of sissies if you, go back and get warmed up. You know how guys are. You're not going to be the one to be like, oh, I'm cold, I'm going back. So we go out and we start cutting down all this brush and dragging it, and my feet get so cold I couldn't feel them at all. I couldn't feel from my knee down. My whole foot was frozen, and it got to the point where, that feeling you get when your foot's asleep and you can't hardly walk because it feels like you don't have feet. Yeah, that's what I was experiencing because my feet were so cold. And I wasn't gonna be like, oh, I gotta go back and warm up. You gotta act tough around all the guys. So we're out there for hours, and my feet were so cold. We finally finish our job and go back in, and I take my boots off, and I'm walking around, and I'm like, I can't feel my feet. And I'm walking around, and I'm warming them up, and after a while they get real hot. My feet were real hot, and I'm like, I don't understand this. And they get red, and then slowly they start to swell, and they get huge. I'm talking like, massive. It felt like I was walking on balloons. It was the weirdest feeling I've ever felt. My toes swelled up. I don't know. It was insane. So everybody was seeing my feet, and they were like they were saying, "Oh, look, sausage toes," because my toes were so big. It was insane. And I don't know, it was crazy. So we have to leave this place. So I go to put my boot back on, and my foot's too swollen. I can't put my boot on. And finally, somebody grabs me and takes me over to a nurse or something that was there, and she's like, "Oh yeah, you have frostbite." She said, uh, don't heat them up with water, or else you'll have like damage, and it's really bad." She said, "If they turn purple, you better go to a doctor right away." So I was walking through the parking lot, in the snow with my socks on because I couldn't fit my feet in the shoes, and just kind of walked it off, and next day the swelling was gone, but I still had no feeling. I didn't have feeling for a month after. Yeah, it was weird. I could touch my feet, not a feeling. It was crazy, but yeah, it was a hilarious story, and people still make fun of me to this day for doing that. But I mean, my thinking was good. I figured I'd wear the rubber boots, to keep my feet from getting wet and then freezing, but didn't take into account the frozen soles. So let that be a lesson to you, I guess. uh, all right, cool. Hope it made you laugh.